Welcome back to the UK Tonight. Now, when England cricket legend Stuart Broad stepped away from the sport 3 months ago, many were a little surprised. The fast bowler was at the top of his game, tormenting the Australian batsmen throughout the summer in what turned out to be a very memorable Ashes series. However, the 37-year-old knew the time was right and went out with a bang, hitting a six with his last shot and getting a wicket with his final ball in Test cricket, something that has never been done before. So what does life after cricket have in store for one of the legends of the game? I sat down with Stuart Broad a little earlier to find out.
I always knew that I wanted to try and finish playing for England. I wanted my last ball to be for England. And this summer was one of the most exhilarating, exciting Ashes series I've been a part of. England and Australia's the Ashes series have had a big part of my family's history, and I've loved playing in them. And I was still bowling really nicely. I was still really enjoying it, and I wanted to leave the game loving it. I didn't want to get to that stage where I felt slightly over the hill, maybe my body let me down or I lost form. And my lasting memories of cricket would have been of slightly negative ones. So it was a really difficult decision, don't get me wrong. You know, it was not something I took lightly, but it was quite a brave call to do because I knew I had a couple of years left in me. But ultimately, deep down, I wanted to finish at the top. And to guarantee that, I had to go on my own account, really.
And also, what I found refreshing about when you announced your retirement was you were very honest about the fact that you've got two girls in your life. You have a partner and a young daughter, Annabella, who is a year old now. Year old. And I thought that was really refreshing, actually, for a sportsman to come out and say, I have a young family and this is my new focus now. How much was that part of the decision?
Big part. Yeah, a big part. I mean, it's... international cricket takes you away from home a lot. It's a lot of travel, and ultimately it's the travel that's out of your control. You go where the training is, you go where the matches are, and it's incredible. You know, I've loved every moment of my career. But when Annabella came along and going away became harder, I didn't feel the joy that I used to feel when I was going away for 5-6 weeks at a time. And I feel so excited about the next chapter of my life. I certainly don't believe in like the R word, the retirement word. I'm certainly moving careers, but moving careers with a bit more choice as to where I can spend my time. And a lot of that time will be with Molly and Annabella, because it's been the most incredible year. It's you know, any new parent will know it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's, you know, I want to be around for her upbringing. I want to be able to experience so many things with her. You know, it's only a short period of your life you get to have young kids. So feel very lucky that she's happy and healthy and want to be there, you know, as a dad for her.
What is next for you? Because, you know, the R word coming along at the age of 37, which, you know, in any other career, that's when most people are just getting started. For you, it's the end, but as you said, the start of something new. Where do you go from here? What is it you want to do?
Yeah, great question, because I think it's quite a scary time for a sports person, because you're right, you move away from something you've loved doing at quite a young age, but also then you're behind other professionals who have been maybe focused on their careers for the previous 10 years. Ultimately, I want to stay in the game of cricket. I love the game of cricket. It's my biggest hobby. I've got a wealth of knowledge that I've built from playing for England for 17 years, which, whether that's sharing that with young players in a coaching capacity or whether that's on the punditry side.
Throughout your career, have you noticed a change in terms of sports people talking about failure more and being able to talk about it in a way that they turn it into a positive? Because a lot of people now address their failures as much as their successes, saying that actually those failures contributed to the sportsman that they became, and they've taken something away from that. What have you addressed in the book about failures and how you've dealt with them? And could you pick out a key one that you think was a turning point for you as a cricketer?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I actually found the book really therapeutic to write, because I approach things throughout my career that in sport you're always looking forward, you're always moving on. So if you had a bad day, you're like, what's next? So it's great to actually visit things that have gone drastically wrong and what I did learn from them. And, you know, I got hit for 6 sixes in 2007, Yuvraj Singh in Durban in India, which was a catastrophic day for me, really. It was awful.
It was in the 2020, right?
Yeah, it was. And, you know, I was young, I was 21, 22. I remember it just being a bit of a a fuzzy feeling. I didn't focus on anything. I didn't concentrate on anything particular. I didn't prepare very well for that game. I had no routines. So it was a big failure. But ultimately, I think a lot of sports people's failures come at 25, 26, and then it takes them a bit of time to learn from it, and then they peak at 30. Whereas I think that experience happening so young, I actually managed to get my routines and structure together. So by the time I was 26, 27, I was being able to perform quite consistently. And I learned so much about mental routines, mindsets. You know, my dad told me at 15, he thinks international cricket's 80% mental, 20% technical. And at 15, I'm like, what? What are you on about? I'm in the nets all the time, I'm catching it. But actually, having finished my career, I think it's more. I think it's 90% mental. You know, building a structure and routines around you that look after you. And actually, from 26, 27, I used to write notes most days, not every day, but certainly this Ashes series every day of how I was feeling in the morning. And I think the older I got, the better I got at being honest with myself. I'm allowed to admit to myself I'm feeling nervous. And I'd write down, feeling really nervous this morning. Why am I feeling nervous? How am I going to counteract that? And actually, day one of the Ashes at Edgbaston, I was looking back through my notes with the book, and I'd written how nervous I was feeling. My legs were feeling heavy, although I'd not even started the game yet. And I wrote down, you know, talk to some teammates, just not in a negative way that I'm feeling nervous, but how are you feeling? And
was that particular to you, or is mental health and looking after yourself in that way something that's talked about more in cricket, whether it's at county level or international level?
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest evolutions in my career.
Because you're away from your family so much, travelling, the pressure. It probably wasn't
talked about, and now the relationships have grown so much within the group and the support staff that it's a very open environment. So I had no problems with going up to Jimmy Anderson going, Jim, how you feeling, mate? You good? He's like, a bit nervous, you know. I was like, really? I'm feeling the same. I said, my legs are feeling heavy. And he's like, yeah, mine are too. What should we do about that? Oh, it's great you're feeling the same. What should we do about it? And then then I'm not feeling nervous in my own head. I'm thinking, it's just me, it's just me. You open up the problem and actually you solve it. Because we just went for a bit of a jog, we kicked the football around and it freed us up a little bit. So, I think note-taking was probably... I used to write my feelings, write 3 thoughts and write 3 things I'm grateful for every morning with a coffee. And that was probably held me mentally as strong as I could possibly throughout my international career, I think.
What's the state of the game that you leave behind in terms of, there's always the debate about there are too many formats of cricket at the moment, so many tournaments. And of course, England at the World Cup. I mean, there was a quote I read today that was something like, reputations take years to build and moments to destroy. What do you think the state of the game is at the moment as you walk away from it as a player?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think just touching on the World Cup, it's been a disastrous World Cup. We can't hide away from that. You know, we've got really talented players, but a whole group of players that have lost form at the same time is really unique. And I don't think that means, rip up the strategy and start again. I personally would keep Jos Buttler in charge. I'd keep the coach in charge. Yes, a freshen up of some faces in that side, which will come naturally. I think you're going to have players move away from the one-day format because the next World Cup's 4 years away. But actually the strategy of that really attacking cricket and playing without fear and driving the game forward is exactly what we need. We just might need a bit of a few fresh faces to drag that forward.
The future's bright then on the field in your point of view, but cricket has had to answer, particularly in the county games, some uncomfortable questions recently about racism in the game, and it's something that, the ECB are not shying away from. They're saying they're tackling it, they've got a plan in place. What's your view on that in terms of, the game of cricket and it being diverse and inclusive?
I think it's a really strong conversation to have because as an England player, you walk onto the field and there's announcements around the ground and it's like cricket's a game for everyone. Well, it's no good just being words. That has to be put into action. And, I think it's really important that, of course, players take a lot of momentum of those words and try and put it into action. And ultimately, when I look back at my upbringing, you're so inspired by the role models you can see. So getting the players out into the community to get kids wanting to be them. I think the England team, particularly that won the 2019 World Cup, was a really diverse team with different religions and brilliantly led by Owen Morgan. And we created heroes out of English cricket players in that period of time. And, you know, whether the game inspired enough kids to want to play the game from that, probably not. Mm-hmm. And questions need to be asked as why and what can we learn from that? And actually, you know, get the players out there, get coaches out there and spread the word of cricket. Because for me, ultimately, until you've hit the ball, until you've bowled a ball that hits the wickets and taken a great catch, it's very hard to fall in love with the game of cricket. So get the game out there to every community in every city, and we'll find talent, because we know the talent's in this country and we know the love for the game is there. We just need to expose it.